Hey there, West Michigan. I'm meteorologist Samantha Jacks. The winter storm that we have been tracking all week long is making itself known in West Michigan and is expected to bring blizzard-like conditions to the area. Strong, gusty winds, heavy, wet, dense snow, and reduced visibility all anticipated for tonight's evening commute. Starting things off with our weather ball, it is currently blinking blue as we have cooler temperatures in view and additional rounds of snowfall in sight. Okay, sorry, that was my fault. I know my IPN, so I'm like, I don't know if it's happening. I'm not going to use it, Mandy. Okay. Hey there, West Michigan. I'm meteorologist Samantha Jacks. The winter storm that we've been tracking all week long is making itself known all across the state of Michigan, bringing heavy, wet, dense snow, strong, gusty winds, and near blizzard-like conditions. Let's time it all out for you. Right now, your weather ball is blinking blue as we have cooler temperatures in view and rounds of snowfall in sight. We're starting off our morning with winter storm warnings that go into effect at 10 a.m., continuing on until 7 p.m. tomorrow night. A winter storm warning indicates that we should expect 8+ inches of snowfall to fall in a 12-hour time frame, which is exactly what we anticipate for a large portion of West Michigan, with additional snow following that in the form of lake effect. But first, let's talk about today's system. This snow trying to make it to the surface, but it is contending with a strong easterly, relatively dry wind. Eventually, though, the low pressure system itself gets a little bit closer, it gets a bit more oomph to it, and that's going to allow all this moisture to make it to the surface and begin that heavy and intense snowfall. The most likely time frame for heavy dense snow begins after 1 p.m. today and continues on until the 7 o'clock hour tonight. As you can see here, there's the heavy snow being picked up by the model along the lakeshore right around 1 to 2 o'clock. It continues to filter into West Michigan from 3 to 5 p.m. and there you can see encompassing the entire lower peninsula at this time and working up towards the upper peninsula. This is a heavy, wet, dense snow that will turn slushy on the roadways as people drive in it. It's also going to weigh very heavy on our trees and on our power lines. By 9 p.m., the low pressure system itself tracks across the state. This is when we're going to have a little bit of peace and quiet, kind of like the eye of a hurricane where things become calm for just a minute. Winds are going to calm down. Snowfall rates are going to come a little bit lower, no longer an inch per hour. And then we'll start to see the back edge of the system wrap through, bringing an additional couple of inches as we track into your Saturday morning. Behind the system itself, we drive down a really cold Arctic air, which is going to fire off lake effect snow as we progress throughout your Saturday afternoon and throughout a large portion of next week as well. So this is not going to be a short-lived system and not going to be short-lived impacts either. In terms of our hour-by-hour forecast, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, this isn't all coming very fast. The thing is that it's a slow start, but then once it gets going, things are going to deteriorate quickly. We're talking 1 to 2 inches of snowfall, potentially even closer to that 3-inch mark by the time we hit the 5 o'clock time frame. But in just a 2-hour span, we're talking an additional 3 inches of snow on the ground, bringing Grand Rapids to around 4.5 inches at this time, 5 inches in Holland, 7 in South Haven, and that continues to work up to the north and east after that time frame. It's also important to note that even though maybe these aren't the highest snowfall totals at this time, there also will be very strong winds coupled with it, deteriorating conditions even further and making visibility very, very hard to see. In terms of our 9 o'clock hour, this is when we have that little bit of a break, but that snow sweeps right back through during the overnight hours and into early tomorrow morning, bringing those additional couple of inches, bringing us to that winter storm criteria of 8+ inches of snow in a 12-hour time span. There will be more snow to talk about after that, but first let's finish up this system. The winds are going to be gusting out of the east during the afternoon hours today, sustained at around 25 to 30 miles per hour, gusting 45 to even 50 miles per hour at this time. The combination of the winds gusting that strong and the snow coming down is likely going to cause power outages. That's something we need to think about all day long, charging those devices and making sure we're prepared for the cold temperatures that are to come in the case of a power outage in your house. Here's that little break in the strong winds that comes during the 9 o'clock hour, and then we see a shift in the wind direction to out of the north and west as we transition into your Saturday. That's going to drive down an Arctic air mass over our relatively warm lakes, sitting at 40 to 45 degrees right now in Lake Michigan. That will fire up that lake effect snow machine, and we're going to have a hard time shutting it off. The winds continue to be breezy throughout a majority of the weekend. So in terms of winter impacts, we've talked about it a little. The best news about this forecast, and there's not a lot of good news in it, is that I don't expect any ice buildup. So that's great. It's just going to be snowfall and wind, although that's going to bring enough impacts on its own. Low visibility, of course, especially during that late evening commute time frame leading up to the 9 o'clock hour. Travel impacts, of course. Once you start to see 5-6 inches of wet, dense snow on the roads, it becomes difficult to clean up. And then power outage is also very likely. We mentioned that the potential for there to be some lake effect snow in the forecast is going to bring additional accumulation to the region. Lake effect snow is going to begin Saturday early afternoon and continue on through Saturday night. This is a rough estimate. It's a little bit tricky right now to nail down the lake effect forecast with this system snow in front of it, but I do anticipate lakeshore counties to experience around 4+ inches of snow, and the further south and west that you travel, that includes portions of Allegan County, southern Ottawa County, and stretching down through Van Buren and Kalamazoo County, you likely are going to pick up an additional 6 inches of snow. That's on top of the 8 to 10 inches that you've already received. That's why we're saying this is going to be a long duration event. You're going to want to keep up with your shoveling. The good news is that this snow won't be quite as heavy to shovel because it's not going to be that dense snow that comes down. Whenever we see lake effect snow, especially with strong winds, the snow becomes a little bit more fragmented. It'll be lighter and airier. That also poses the threat, though, of blowing and drifting snow, where we could see areas see really, really high snowfall totals, while others see all of their snow blow into those regions. That is another thing that we're continuing to monitor throughout the weekend. And now on to the third part of this forecast. We had the heavy wet snow and the winds, and then we have the lake effect snow, and now we have the Arctic chill that builds in behind it. We are going to see our feels-like conditions as we track into your Sunday fall down to sub-zero by the afternoon hours. We're talking around -3 to -4 degrees through a large portion of West Michigan. Remember, this is also when we could still be dealing with the impacts of power outages across the region. Monday stays just as cold. We're still talking sub-zero afternoon highs. That means our overnight lows, which are expected to be even cooler than our afternoon highs, will likely be somewhere between -10 to -20 degrees. When you start to fall down to feels like conditions like that, exposed skin can experience frostbite in just under 30 minutes. So there's a lot in this forecast that we have to think about and be prepared for, but we're Michiganders. We can handle it. Your 13 on your side 10-day forecast showing off that dip in temperatures into early next week. And look at how long that lake effect snow machine stays fired up all the way through the following Friday. And temperatures still remain the coolest of the season all throughout next week, sustained in the 20s. Thanks for joining me today on 13 Plus. We will continue on with extensive coverage all afternoon long, including a special edition of 13 on your side at 4 p.m. tracking the winter storm, and of course continued coverage on all of our social media platforms.